Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Couillou. I'm a psychologist at the Counseling Center here at Valdosta State University, and this is the first part of our graduate student wellness workshop series, and the first part is called Maintaining Relationships. And the idea behind this workshop series, each year we do some outreach activities for students on campus, and we realized that we didn't have any programming available for graduate students in particular. So this is part of that effort as far as giving some wellness information to graduate students. So another idea behind this is to make it accessible, so that's why we're doing it online. Because as graduate students, you're probably pretty busy, so we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So you can, if you get interrupted during one of these sessions, you can just pause it and come back to it later if you want to. So it's very flexible that way. So before I get into this presentation, I just wanted to go over a little bit about the content of the series as a whole. So the first part of the workshop series is Maintaining Relationships, which is it rolls out September 1st, 2016, and that's presented by myself. And then part 2 is Time Management. That's going to roll out a month later on October 1st, and that's also presented by myself. And then part 3 is Finding Balance, which is going to be available November 1st, and that's presented by my colleague Bradford Coleman, who's also a counselor at the Counseling Center. So really these topics are centered around issues that you're going to be dealing with, or that you already might be dealing with over the course of the whole semester. So if you find this presentation helpful, stick around and check back later on in the semester when the other series become available. So about this workshop in particular, this workshop we're going to first examine the different relationship roles that you have and your current satisfaction in these roles. As a graduate student, you're going to have a lot of different hats that you're wearing, both in your personal life and as a professional student. So we're going to be looking at those a little bit more in detail as they apply to you individually. Also, we're going to be discussing some issues that are unique to graduate students and relationships, because the demands of graduate students are different than you would have in an undergraduate, as an undergraduate student. So we're going to look at that a little bit more in detail. Also discovering some possible changes that you might expect in your relationships when you're in graduate school. So because those demands are different, it's going to also change your relationships in certain ways. And finally, learning how to maintain healthy relationships with your partner, your spouse, your family, and friends. So that's kind of the general, these are the general objectives of the workshop that we're going to be getting into today. So first, before we go into the meat of the presentation, I just wanted to give a background of myself as the presenter, and this is something that affects me and that I've gone through as far as managing a relationship and relationships when in graduate school. I've been through 2 graduate programs. I've been through a master's program and a doctorate program in psychology, and also I've done 2 trainings across the United States. I've done my pre-doctoral internship at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then my postdoctoralship in Los Angeles, California at the University of Southern California. So I've moved across the United States. I've been in school or training for the last 10 years, I guess, prior to this position. So it's really something that hits home to me as far as how this can affect relationships. These pictures here on this slide are of me and my wife, Amanda. We got married in 2014, and she's been a huge source of support for me throughout all the challenges that we've been through and the training that we've done. And really something that's been very helpful is to have gone through this as a team, and I think one thing that was really helpful in starting out is I was already in a graduate program when we started dating, so that was kind of something that was integrated into our relationship beginning. So she kind of had that expectation that this was going to take a lot of time and be a huge sacrifice, but it's been I think one component that's really helped me is to approach the relationship with understanding, and communication is a huge key to making a relationship work when you're moving, when you have a lot of demands on your time, and perhaps when you're negotiating a long distance relationship. So this next activity is called Roles in My Life, and this is an exercise to explore the different roles that you may have as a student and in your personal life. So I would encourage you, after I describe the exercise, to take a minute and pause the video to finish up the exercise. And I'm going to describe it in detail and give you an example of what this looks like. So what I'd like you to do is take out a piece of paper and make 4 columns across the top and label them roles, importance, manifestation, and difference. So under the roles section, so what we're going to do is list 5 to 7 roles that you have. So this, for example, could be your role as a student. It could be your role as a father or mother if you have kids, your role as a daughter or son, your role as a sister or brother, your role as a graduate assistant. So just listing all the ones that are kind of important to you. Then in the next column, you're going to be rating those roles, each role, the importance of those roles from 1 to 10. So 1 is low importance, so it's not important to you at all, and 10 is the highest importance. So you can have repeating numbers if you like. So if there's 2 roles that you rate as an 8, that's completely fine. Now next you're going to be doing manifestation. So this is your current behavior in that role. So rating the degree in which this is manifesting in your life. So 1 is you're not spending hardly any time at all in this role, so this is low manifestation. To 10, you're spending a lot of time, much of your time in this role, so that's high manifestation. And then the last category is different, so we're going to do some simple subtraction, subtracting the manifestation score from the importance rating, and this would look like importance minus manifestation equals difference. So I'll show you what this looks like on the next slide. So this is a simple example that I gave. These are example roles that a student might have. So your role as a student, role as a daughter, role as a partner, role as a sister, and role as a graduate assistant. So this is some examples. And then rating those importance. So this person rated their student importance as a 7, and their manifestation of that role is a 9, so they're spending a lot of time in that. And the difference is -2, so 7 minus 9 is -2. So also be sure to record whether the value is negative or positive, because that goes into the interpretation that we'll do later. So this is a good time to pause the video if you'd like, and just finish up this activity, and then come back once you're done rating the importance, manifestation, and doing the subtractions. So hopefully you're back and you've done the exercise. So what we're going to be doing now is scanning for some higher negative and positive values in the difference categories. So this category right here we're going to be looking at. So what you want to do is look for, let's first look for any high negative values. So let's use the example here. We have, I guess we have a -2 and a -4. So the -4 is the largest. So in this example, this is the highest negative value, the role as a graduate assistant. And we can kind of see that here. So this is a low importance. So this role may not be as important to this person, and the manifestation is is a little bit high. So it's not important to them, but they're spending a lot of time in this category. And what this means is if you have a high negative value in this exercise, it might mean that you're in danger of burning out because you're spending a lot of time in a role that you don't view as necessarily important. So there's a couple of options here, and it might depend because you might not have a lot of flexibility with this particular role. For example, a GA, you might have some required hours that you have to do each week, and you have to meet those. But consider setting boundaries for yourself in this area. So if you're doing a lot of extra work that you don't necessarily need to do, or that you can do at a later time, it might be a good idea to assert yourself and to set some boundaries with your supervisor or boss, and just have a conversation about that. Also, increasing your efforts in other areas that are more important to you can help with that balance and not feeling so burnt out overall. High positive values. So let's look at this example. We have the other ratings here are positive. So we have a 5, and a 7. So if we're using the 7 here as an example, this person's role as a sister. And so this is very important to them. They rated this as a 9, but they're not spending a lot of time in this category. So it's a 2 here. So what this might mean for this person is they might be experiencing some guilt or dissatisfaction with themselves in this area. And as a graduate student, you're not going to have a lot of time. You're going to be perhaps doing research. You have a lot of books to read. You have a graduate assistantship. You have other relationships that you're navigating and building relationships with perhaps your cohort members. And so you're going to be strapped for time. So consider finding some efficient ways of investing yourself in this area. So this might be very simple, like sending a text daily to your sister, or having a video conferencing or Skyping with her once a week. So finding a little way of appeasing yourself in that role and investing some time, that can go a long way to feeling a little bit better in that category and not feeling so dissatisfied. So these are just some examples, but hopefully you can see maybe a couple of roles where you either might feel a little burnout or maybe dissatisfied, and to start thinking about some ways where you can feel a little bit better in that category, either by limiting your time in that area or finding different ways of investing yourself in other areas that you find more important. So with being a graduate student, you are going to be coming in with some different roles that you have, like we just discussed, and there's some benefits and drawbacks of having certain statuses. So I'm just going to be talking briefly about coming to graduate school, being single, being married while in graduate school, and being a parent. So when you're single, there is a lot of flexibility. This is a strength because you can really focus on yourself in graduate school. Now the drawback of this is that you may not, especially if you're moving from across country, or if you're moving from a different part of the state, you're going to be moving to an area where you might not have a very strong social network. So it's very important to start building that here. That was something that I encountered when I moved to my master's program in North Carolina. I'm a Georgian, and I didn't have a lot of friends when I moved to North Carolina, so that's something I had to build. And that was very useful as far as spending time outside of my work and the school work, is having a support system locally where I lived. And I still had friends and family from back home, but it's also important to build that where you are currently. So a good goal is to seek and to grow at least 2 relationships, and investing some time in them, and just to keep that in mind, that's going to also be important, not just the research and the schooling that you're doing and your graduate assistantship. This needs to be a priority as well. If you're married, that also presents with challenges and benefits. If your spouse is supportive, consider having a conversation with them about how they can kind of help you with some things with graduate school and what's going to help with maintaining the household and um, different things that can help you out when you're particularly under a lot of stress. And then also on the opposite side of that is negotiating with them on when you can help out and when you can do chores and what's going to be, I guess, what's going to work out with your schedule. So that's going to be some negotiation there with your spouse, and always making, I guess, deposits in a relationship bank. Spending some time with them through dates, spending time alone, giving them gifts, showing appreciation. That's going to go a long way, because this is going to be a stressor on your relationship. This is a new factor that you're going to have to negotiate in your marriage. When you're parenting, put yourself near the top of the priority list when you do have children, and this will help you be a better mother or father. So seek out ways of spending relaxing time with your children that might help you manage your stress, and then also try to find do some social networking, find some ways of having some alone time, and get some volunteer babysitters, either your family or get involved with a church or another organization that has babysitting or other events going on where your children can get involved, and that can take some of the burden off of a parenting during specific times where you might need more time. So some suggestions for a healthy relationship in graduate school. Like I said, there's going to be graduate school is going to create some stress. It's going to be a huge factor that's going to change a lot of things. So these suggestions are adapted from Counseling Psychological Services at Duke University. So a lot of these suggestions are coming from them, and I've just kind of integrated them into this presentation. So one helpful tip is to participate in honest communication and planning with your partner. This is going to be essential. And part of this is communicating your feelings, communicating empathy for your partner's feelings, and also considering using a calendar together to plan. Because when graduate school gets up and running, your time is going to be spent in a lot of different areas, and you're going to have to protect your time as a couple and the obligations that you have to one another in order to have a successful relationship. So having some sort of way of doing that, if you can do that in your mind without a calendar, that's great, but also having some type of structure or a place to write those down and to adhere to those, that's going to be very helpful. Boundaries are also going to be important, and that goes along with communication. So communicating those boundaries with your program and with your partner. And this is going to be an ongoing process, especially if you have a partner, if you are in a relationship before you get to graduate school. You're going to need to express what your needs are to your partner and explain to them, because they might not have any idea what the demands are for a graduate student, that you have to spend hours and hours reading or doing research. They may not have an idea of what that might look like for you and how it's going to affect the relationship. So just kind of letting them in on what your demand is like, and what boundaries are going to be important. So a boundary could be like, that you're going to need from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock every day to work on your research or do reading, and then after that time, then you can spend time with them. So boundaries in that way are important. That's just an example. Also, having some boundaries with your program is important. So having conversations with your professor, because sometimes professors don't have in mind that you have these other obligations to your family, to your graduate assistantship. and you have to communicate with them. Okay, I have these things going on, and I'm going to need some flexibility with this, or how can we work this out so I get what you need done, and then also what I have to do for my family and or my other obligation in this area. So there's setting boundaries with your program can also be done. And another huge area is preparing for unexpected demands of your time, because you're going to have time where you're going to have to do unexpected work for professors. If you have a cohesive cohort, there's going to be times where there's social events that pop up, like somebody's birthday, or everybody wants to decompress after tests and they want to go out and have some dinner. And to let your spouse know about these kind of ahead of time, or your partner ahead of these, let them know about these ahead of time, that these might happen, just so they can have an expectation that this could occur. And supporting your partner is also essential, showing interest in their emotions and activities of your partner. So taking just a few minutes out of each day and having a conversation with them, conveying some interest in what they're doing and how their day's gone. That's a little bit hard to do when you have a lot of demands of your time, but you have to set aside what you're doing just for a minute and attend to what your partner's going through. Also, setting aside some quality time with your partner, and doing this for a longer period than just a minute or two, having maybe 30 minutes or an hour where you spend time together, even if it's just watching a TV show together or having dinner together where you're just there with them and listening to them. Those are just some ideas. And helping around the house, that's going to be an area that is maybe sometimes not doable, and other times you might have that available. So letting your partner know that this might be difficult for you to fit in, but setting aside some time where you can help with chores, and telling them, okay, well, I can help with these chores at this time during the day, is going to be helpful. Some other suggestions is, and I mentioned this with my relationship, and what's been helpful is working through challenges of school as a team. And wherever you can do that and have that mentality, it's going to make it a lot easier. You're going through this as a team. It puts this us versus them mentality out, and you can focus on your relationship and the challenges that you have as a team. I think that's a good mentality to have. So however that's going to look for you and your partner, that's going to be helpful. Also, knowing that since the work of graduate student never stops, you have to make a choice of when to spend that time with your partner. And that might be a difficult decision to make in the moment, but it's going to be a choice that you have. So you have to develop that ability to say no, to realize when you've done enough studying, when you've done enough reading for the night, and you just need to spend some time and decompress and tend to your personal relationships. For long distance relationships, it's crucial to make daily connections, or as constant as possible. Really, it's you're going to be in a different culture a lot of times than your partner. They may not realize the work that you have to do, what the culture of being a graduate student is, and just by making those daily connections, you're going to be communicating that culture. They're going to be understanding more about what you're going through, even if you're just sharing something that you think is not important, like you're going out to eat with your cohort members, or you had a tough day, and you have a professor that you want to talk about as far as an interaction that you've had with them that wasn't very positive for you. So that just kind of lets them in on what you're experiencing and what you're going through on a day-to-day basis. So that's really important. Um, Also acknowledging the sacrifices that your partner makes. That's going to be crucial to showing your appreciation and to keep your partner going as far as their support for you, because it's going to be very draining on them. This is going to be a huge stressor not only for you but for them, and your relationship. So just showing them some support and acknowledgement of what they're going through and supporting you and the sacrifices that they're making is crucial. So for the last section, I wanted to go over a few don'ts for a relationship, for any relationship, and these qualities or behaviors can be very detrimental to a relationship. And if you're having an argument or a conversation with your partner, so these are something to be mindful of, and then we're going to talk about what you can replace these with. So these come from a couple named the Gottmans. The Gottmans, John and Julie Gottman, do a lot of research on why couples are successful versus why they're unsuccessful, why they might eventually break up or divorce. So they named these characteristics the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So these are definite don'ts in a relationship. So the first one I'll talk about is criticism. So if you find yourself criticizing your partner, blaming them for things, it's important to try to rephrase that in a different way. So try to reflect. If you want to bring something to your partner about something that's irritating you, take a step back for a moment and try to rephrase it in a different way. So approaching it in a gentle manner, focusing on your own experience rather than blaming them for what's going on. So for example, if we're talking about your partner leaving dirty dishes in the sink, you can approach it instead of saying, "You're a slob, you're disgusting, why do you do this, this is a huge mess and I have to clean it up, you're so inconsiderate." Instead of coming at it that way, now that what that's going to do is that's going to shut your partner down. They're not going to be listening to what you're saying because they're going to feel criticized, blamed, and they're probably going to be pretty upset with you approaching it in that way. So instead, just focus on your own experience with that, and use some I statements. I statements are focusing on your feelings, your thoughts, and what you need out of them in the future. So saying, when you leave your dishes in the sink, sometimes I feel kind of irritated about that. So I would really appreciate if you would clean them up pretty soon after you use them. If you can, I think that would be a very good help to me. So, however you choose or whatever your style is, but doing it in that fashion, kind of focusing on your own experience, how it's affecting you, and what you need from them. It's a better way of going about a constructive change in somebody's behavior that is going to be beneficial for you. Defensiveness is another area. So if you find yourself being defensive, it's good to step back and to try to take responsibility. This might be very hard to do and a hard concept to think of, but just try to think of maybe one thing that they're saying and take responsibility for that. Just acknowledge it. So so if you're on the other side of that, just kind of acknowledging, yeah, I do, like for the dish example, I do sometimes leave dishes in the sink, and I can notice that probably does irritate. It probably could be irritating. So that's just an example, but just taking one part of that, you don't have to take responsibility for the whole thing, but that will help with bridging that connection in that moment with that person. Contempt, these are comments that might belittle somebody or come from an air of superiority. So, like telling somebody they're lousy or they're no good or they're not good enough. Anything that might belittle your partner is going to be very detrimental. And it's also detrimental to their health. There's research that's done that has shown partners that show contempt for the other partner, the listener in that conversation will experience some health problems later on. So it can be very, very detrimental if that's going on. So if you find yourself doing that, the cure for that is to appreciate your spouse or partner. So acknowledging what they've done for you, acknowledging something positive that they've done, and that really is should be replacing any type of contempt in the relationship. Stonewalling is something that happens when so if your partner comes up to you and is upsetting you for some reason, and you kind of just shut down emotionally, that's perceived very negatively by your partner. Even if you're not doing that to be upsetting to them, it can cause a rift in your relationship. So doing some soothing for yourself physiologically, a good way to do that, and there's countless videos on this on YouTube, and there's also if you need some tips on how to do this, you can always come to the counseling center and see a counselor at Valdosta State University. We can help you with some of these tips, but doing some deep breathing or some relaxation in the moment, or taking a minute and let your partner know, you just need a few minutes by yourself, and then you come back and talk about the issue that they're bringing to you. But if calming yourself down so you can listen more and be more present with them emotionally. So lastly, I would like to just introduce the Counseling Center services briefly. We provide free and confidential services to students. So if you're a VSU student, you can use our services free of charge. You get up to 16 sessions per semester, and you can come to the Counseling Center for any type of concern you have. If you have mental health concerns, personal concerns, or if you want to learn more about how you can better your relationship with your partner. We also do couples counseling. Just to let you know, your partner also does have to be a student in order for you both to be seen at the Counseling Center. But also, if you do need couples counseling, we do have some resources that you can refer to, even if your partner is not a student. So please use our services. Our location is Powell Hall East on the second floor, and we're behind the Bailey Science Center, if you know where that is. We also have a website, and we have a lot of resources, online resources there that we're constantly adding to, so please visit that and some other additional links in our on the Counseling Center website. So I just wanted to thank everybody for sticking around and listening to the presentation today. And if you have any questions or comments, please contact our center. And thank you very much. Bye.